Here's the 4 reasons why you play in the first place. Just quickly put: sense of escapism, they help you get away from your stress of reality. Sense of community, people are social creatures, they love to share experiences. You see constant growth measured with like a metric, so that gives you a literal feedback loop, and we're super addicted to those nowadays. And then 4, they give you a challenge or a goal off in the distance that you can work towards in order to achieve for a sense of gratification. All right, so first step towards actually quitting and getting your life back on track. Act 1, vocalize the problem and identify why you want to change. Ideally, tell somebody you can trust to listen and allow you to express yourself without fear. This is part of establishing to your brain that this is actually the time you're saying goodbye to games. This is important because your thoughts are not permanent and you got to act on them as you feel them. Otherwise, you're not going to do anything and nothing will show for it. So those thoughts will have no meaning. You need to find someone who you can outline your intention to, and your reasoning why, so they can help hold you accountable and your brain can remember that you told that person. This is what's called a social contract. It'll help push you towards the thing you actually want to do by having somebody else hold you accountable. So act 2 is understand that you're coping. So a lot of people will try and quit video games because they don't like themselves. And then they don't realize that they play games because they don't like themselves in the first place, and they need to escape reality. This step is more about helping the person comprehend that what they're doing isn't bad, it's just not the thing that they want to do. Like, there's no point in beating yourself up for playing games. The only thing that matters is whether or not you think the habit is relevant or not, And if you want to get rid of it for yourself, then you watch the YouTubers who berate you for it. The main problem people have with quitting something that's a coping mechanism is that when they don't reach their own goals in terms of quitting, they go back and repeat the problem in an attempt to cope with their own disappointment. The reality is, if you're looking up tips online how to quit games, you probably have attempted to quit before and failed. The issue is people assume that they will be able to drop a habit that has been ingrained into them for years and years by fucking billion-dollar companies. Don't make it a tomorrow thing. If you actually want to see your life improve, you need to have boundaries for yourself and be kind to yourself. And that'll lead us into part 3. So act 3, establish healthy boundaries. So delete Steam or unplug your PlayStation or Xbox and make it so that the ritual for going and playing is now disturbed. So the next time you attempt to utilize that item, for example, turn on the PlayStation, now it's more of a process. You got to flip the PlayStation over, plug it back in, and you got to take Steam's domain off of the blocked websites and allow your computer to download it. This is creating a physical barrier between the impulses and usage to help establish a more healthy mental barrier between impulses and usage. I would recommend meditation. Meditation isn't really happy thoughts. It's just being able to slow down and detach one's thoughts and impulses and focus on the present moment. There's a lot of tutorials on YouTube on how to do that. I would consider it part of the healthy boundaries. I wasn't sure if I should make it another step, but I think it's a healthy boundaries thing. Yeah. So meditation isn't happy thoughts. It's more about being able to slow down and detach from one's thoughts and impulses and focus on the present moment. It's been proven time and time again to help with impulsivity and neuroticism in all ages. I would recommend Dr. K on YouTube. He's a really good gaming-oriented YouTuber who does guided meditation sessions. So if you want somebody who's got, Harvard experience, literal Harvard experience that can help you, you don't need to feel bad about yourself to have good habits. You ought to like yourself for having the good habits, I'd argue. If most of your motivation comes from hating your previous self, then you're fucked. It needs to come from loving the way that you're moving now, otherwise you're not going to keep doing what you're doing. The thing about addiction is it comes when you feel bad. So you don't want to play games when you're super happy in life. I feel like that's so obvious when you say it. If you're around a bunch of girls and shit, you don't need to go and play games. You start playing games when shit starts to fucking fall apart and you're like, what the fuck is this? You don't want to play them when you're super happy. It's usually at the end of the day that's been at best alright, so to cope you hop on the video game. It's going back to part 2 with understanding that you're coping, but it's really that's a really big part of addiction I don't think people take seriously, is the idea that you're pathologically predisposed to want to go to that thing when you're sad. It's not that you're a bad person for having issues doing it. It's that you've built a habit of doing it all the time. If you make yourself happier, man, you're probably not going to play games as much. And that's kind of the reality that I'm trying to get to people is that it's a coping mechanism, and that you shouldn't beat yourself up for the coping mechanism. You should find a better way to cope, and you should find a lifestyle that helps you feel like you need to cope less, where there's more hope in your future. Act 4, now we're into the replacement category. This ties back into the start. So now we're going to be building habits that lead towards more of a reward that'll inspire you to keep with the healthy habits instead of falling back on the bad ones. So this is going back to the very beginning where we're tying in all the initial desires that made you play games in the first place. You know, that sense of escapism, community, that feedback loop, and the goal that you're working towards. All of those things are incredibly addictive. When you want to find those things out there in the world, you'll find them and they'll be a lot more satisfying than they could have ever been on games. Exercising, for example, the contrast is nuts. 1 hour of gaming compared to 1 hour of exercise is such a drastic difference in how your body looks and feels. It'll also equip your body with endorphins as counterweapons to help you fight the feelings of loneliness and sadness that lead you to want to play games. Exercise can also work as a replacement for all 4 of those baseline reasons people play games. If one takes it seriously and tracks himself, he can build an addicting, healthy feedback loop. So you gotta imagine if this person is anything like me and they were addicted to a game like Counter-Strike, and you got this sense of escapism, this sense of, you know, progression with you getting better, this sense of community with the people that you would log on and play with, and the sense of challenge. What you're searching for when you log on those games that are hyper competitive with ranking systems and elo systems that are going to try and make you compete with other people is something like this, where you naturally want to just compete with people. So exercise will help you in a variety of ways. It'll make you not want to cope because you'll feel better. You know, if you take it seriously and you really track what's going on, then you have a healthy feedback loop, and that can be immensely addicting for people if they want to reach the challenge of building a physique that they really, really, really like their dream body. That's incredibly difficult for everybody. Nobody's dream body is something easy, and that's a very, very satisfying thing to work towards, you know, as opposed to being the best Counter-Strike player or being the best League of Legends player. Like, the percentage of people that go pro and make money from these things are such a small, tiny subset of people that it's like, don't do it, bro. Like, I hate to say it, but it's like you're being programmed to think that you should do it and that you can do it, but you're an idiot if you think you should. This is coming from somebody who wanted to be a pro Counter-Strike player and then a pro rapper, you know. Act 5 is creative outlet. If you have a creative outlet, when I quit video games for the first time at like 16, I started making beats and writing music, and it ended up being a really great outlet for me that I still do to this day. And then Act 5 is be kind to yourself. So talk to yourself as if you were your own child. So if your kid was attempting to quit something as hard and as everywhere as video games, I would hope you would have the presence of mind to slow down and be patient with him when times get hard and he fails. Because if it was something easy for all of us to stop doing, it wouldn't be $1 billion industry. That's the harsh reality. There's a ton of money invested in this shit. If you can't be nice to yourself about it, you're gonna fail, because it's the unhealthy thoughts about yourself that make you want to go and play games. It's the thoughts that go, I can't do shit, that make you want to get on the game that makes you feel like you're powerful. Because that's how the games are designed. They're designed to make you feel like you can do anything and you can be anything, even if you're an irrelevant person in society. Matter of fact, they'll push you towards being the irrelevant person in society as they make you more and more lazy and less effective. Really, at the end of the day, you can choose who you want to be in this life. You don't need to be a slave to these multimedia corporations attempting to take your attention. You can utilize your attention and make the thing that you want to make. You know, this technology is a sword. You can either be the person that grabs it by the handle and uses it properly, which is like, you know, a tiny fraction of the people out there, or you can be the person that grabs it by the blade edge and hurts themselves. And that's how most people choose to interact with the world. So I just implore you to set boundaries for yourself. If you want to quit games, quit games. Don't make excuses. Stop making excuses. Make results. All right. Peace.